In this lesson, I'm going to demonstrate the concept of getting user input. In other words, in Java, we can tell or ask the user for input before printing out the output. So a pretty powerful concept and very common to use is where you prompt the user for a piece of information and then you can process that information and display the output. So for example, you may ask the user to input a username and a password. That's fairly common. Or you can ask the user to enter a bunch of numbers and then you can add those numbers, multiply or subtract, and so on. So let's jump right in. Let me in fact demonstrate and I'll explain how the concept works, and the best way is of course when you do it yourself. So let's go ahead and open our Java Eclipse editor. So once I'm in the editor, I'm going to go ahead, right click on Java Introduction, go to New, and then select the class and name it GettingUserInput. Click Finish, and this will create our class called GettingUserInput. Now here I'm going to introduce something new, because since we're working with user input now, we need to tell Java or make sure that Java knows where to get the input from. So to do this, we need to import another class, a built-in class within Java that allows us to do this. And this, for instance, would be import java.util, which again contains the collection framework, legacy collection classes, event model, date, times, and facilities. Again, built-in Java classes that we can import. So after util, we use something called scanners. Now, this particular statement, the import java.util.scanner class, is a simple text scanner, which can simply parse primitive types and strings using regular expressions. So the important points about scanner is the fact that this scanner breaks its input into various tokens using a delimiter pattern, which by default matches the white space. So in short, in easier terms, we need to use this class that can parse primitive types and strings and regular expressions. So once we used the javautil.scanner, in fact it's not the S, put a semicolon, and next we do the public class called GettingUserInput. And of course, let's set some properties. So it'll be public, static, void, and main, my array, and then the command line argument, open my curly braces, and let me in fact put a comment here. So I'm going to first say create the scanner object, and next I'm going to say scanner input. This is where we're telling Java to first use the scanner input, and we're going to specify this to say new scanner and then system.in method, because this will be the input stream, right? So in means it's the system input method. Put a semicolon outside the parentheses. Great. Next, let me put a comment here. I'm going to say output, or just place the output. And I'm going to say system.out.print. And here my text will say enter a floating point number or value. Great. Next, I'm going to tell Java to wait up, right? So I'm going to say wait for the user to enter something. And that something would be, for instance, double value equals input. And the method I'm going to use is the next double method. And once again, this simply scans the next input value. So semicolon, and put a comment here again. Tell the user what was entered as a value. So simply do a system.out.print and just type you entered, and then of course I'm going to specify the variable, which is the value. Great. So code looks okay so far. Let's take a look at what's going on at line 3, which is public, of course, the spell error, so it'll be static. Perfect. So now our code seems great. Let's go ahead and execute this. So click on run. Save and launch dialog box appears. I'm going to click OK. And Java prompts, right? So it says enter a floating point value, please. And it's waiting for me to enter something. So I'm going to enter something like 5.5. And as soon as I hit the enter key on the keyboard, Java is going to give me the output. You entered 5.5. Pretty straightforward. If I were to run this again, for example, it asks again because it starts over, right? It starts again with the same set of instructions. So this time, if I enter something like 6.7, Java is going to say you entered 6.7. Of course, I have a spell error because I need to make sure that I correct the spelling here. So it'll be entered. Great. Let's run it again. Of course, save it. Every time you make a change, Java wants you to save this. And it asks for the float number value, please, again. And I'm going to say 8.9. You entered 8.9. So here, I'm going to demonstrate the getting user input, right? So this is how you would create simple Java code if you would like to ask the user for input. Now, there are many applications to this. You could, in fact, ask a user to input the first number to add, and then use the next method to add to another number, and finally display the output, and so on. So the sky is the limit as to the logic is concerned. But the important aspect here is to understand the concept of getting user input. So I hope this helps. Practice, and then let's move to the next lesson.